Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Live With It. I am Sarah Lane, and this is the show where the DTNS family of folks lives with a gadget, a service, a product, whatever it might be, over a long enough period of time. We kind of say 3 months is our mark, if not longer, to get a solid, honest feel about living with this and whether or not you, as the listener or the viewer, might want to live with it yourself. And we share our thoughts with you. Joining me today is none other than Patrick Norton. Hey, Pat.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
How are you?
I'm fine.
Oh, good.
I'm so
good.
excited.
I'm excited too. Okay, so when you and I first met, it was at Tech TV back in the day, and you were a whiz at all things product. This is your lane, so to speak.
Oh my goodness, I've been reviewing products for wow, that's a long time.
Most of your life, right?
30 years at this point.
Yeah.
Like getting paid to review products for 30 years. And yeah, it is definitely my lane. And I have discovered, much like y'all have, that sometimes things that look good for the first couple days don't look so good as you get farther. As you spend more time with them, you love them less.
Exactly. And that's the whole point of Live With It is it's easy to get a review unit and say like, oh, this is great, or no, I don't like it. But if you actually live with it for a certain amount of time, things start to change. You get a more informed opinion of whether this is good for you or maybe somebody else. Okay, so without further ado, what have you been living with?
I've been living with the Brother HL-L3295CDW, which is a printer. These things still exist. So this is your basic 4-color laser printer. 31 pages per minute for black and color, like 2400 by 600 DPI. It's got automatic duplex printing, which means if you want to print on both sides of a sheet of paper, you don't have to like pull the paper out and align it the right way and put it back in, which is a nightmare. If we want to nerd out, it's a 250 sheet paper tray. There's an optional 500 sheet paper tray. It's got a multi-purpose tray, so you can put your letterhead in that second tray. That holds like 30 sheets. Wi-Fi, Gigabit Ethernet, USB for printing. It's got NFC, which I will be honest with you, I have never I've never touch printed. But the rest of it I can verify works really well. And a very nice, like 3-inch, or technically 2.7-inch color touchscreen with occasionally inscrutable sayings, but for the most part, stupid easy to use. So
now, okay, so first of all, before we get into how you've been living with it, I know that the company Brother is kind of known as the printing company at this point. How did it's not HP anymore. It's not Epson. It's Brother. At least from most of the wire cutter-esque comparisons that I read. This always seems to be the company that people go with.
There's a great Nilay Patel, the editor-in-chief of The Verge, does this great article where he's basically like, just buy a Brother. And if you search like The Verge, just buy a Brother, or The Verge, laser printer, you're going to get Nilay's article, which is kind of a rant. And it's a wonderful rant because it talks about printing and why it shouldn't be a problem and why so many vendors are nightmares and search engine optimization. And it's a whole thing. So if you're bored, go search for that. But the reason, HP is still a big deal. Epson's still a big deal. But HP, like I feel HP and other, vendors have turned in this sort of art for squeezing as much money out of you for printer cartridges as is inhumanely possible. You know what I mean? When you're looking at a bottle of Chanel and an ink cartridge, and the bottle of Chanel will last you years and the ink cartridge will last you like 20 minutes. This is exaggeration. This is hyperbole. Please, no one sue me. But, there's been a lot of challenges with the cost. It's like, you buy this, the printer is like $60 and then you pay like $600 for each of 4 cartridges. Again, exaggerating, hyperbole, don't sue me.
But no, I mean, that's the exact reason that I finally just kind of gave up on my HP inkjet that I had for years, which had worked fine for a while, then sat dormant. The ink just kind of stopped working. So I ponied up the money to get all new ink cartridges. And then at that point, there was a clog somewhere in the printer, and it was just like
familiar.
It all just felt like such a waste. And I don't even have a printer anymore at this point. Although I want one because every so often, I don't need a printer on a daily basis.
Sure.
But every so often, it's like, oh man, how am I going to print this out?
I have
go somewhere and do it.
I have a suggestion for you. I mean, it's funny, right? Because you mentioned laser printing and inkjet printing are these. When you start to look at the actual technology involved, it's fascinating. It is so cool. It's not a jetpack, but it's like the level of precision and the weirdness going on. Like, I am superheating a spot of ink and spitting it onto a page, and I get this beautiful photograph, right? For us, with this Epson workforce, this ET4550, the EcoTank, like the first EcoTank printer, it was almost a decade old, and we were having almost every time we had to operate the printer, I had to spend like 15 to 30 minutes in the worst case scenarios cleaning and testing the print heads to get a clean print out of it. And it was really slow because it was like 10 years old. And I don't want to say that, PDFs are getting whatever it was processing, you'd be there and you'd hit that send button. And then it was like, we used to call it click to clunk. Like I hit print on the computer and it takes how long to clunk into the paper tray. And that click to clunk time was getting epic.
Okay, so back to our Brother model that you're rocking right now. How much did it cost?
$430, which...
Okay, so for some people, they go, ooh, that sounds like a lot. But it sounds like it has quite a few bells and whistles. So what are you using it for most of the time?
So we were homeschooling a couple of kids until recently. And so we were probably printing a lot more than the average family and maybe even a lot more than like the average small business. Ironically, despite the fact that our middle schooler is in school full time now, we still use it a ton for, basically educational materials we print out to help, advance his whole educational experience, which is a weird sentence to hear myself say out loud. I still edit a lot of words for a living. My wife is a freelance editor, and printing out documents and PowerPoint slides is often incredibly useful to pick up, mistakes for proofreading, for comparison. And honestly, I've been doing this, there's sometimes I just like to hold paper in my hand and not stare at a screen. Right. And honestly, as more and more devices aren't shipped with a manual in the box, I find myself printing out the manuals. So, hey, I have them, with all of the other manuals in that drawer in my workshop, or that I'm not like hauling my laptop out under the hood of my truck because I'm looking up the torque specs for a bolt. I'm probably sure there's other things we do with printers. Oh, the school forms that for some reason they don't have any way to digitally sign them, but they send it to you in a PDF, but they won't accept a digital signature. So you have to print them out so you can manually sign them and send them into the, school with your kid.
Right. There's always that there's where going back to, me not having a printer, there's always that one scenario where it's like, oh gosh, all right, I really could use a printer right now.
Who do I know with a printer?
It would just make things so much easier.
Where's the FedEx office?
So you mentioned that it's, you can do black and white, you can do color. So what's the cartridge situation?
So, it's kind of funny. Like it's the toner cartridge for the Brother. It's like the double XL, they call it, the black toner cartridge is $120 for 4,500 pages. The high yield color cartridges, the, CMY cartridges are about $120 for 2,300 pages. You can get the standard 1,200 page refills for $80. They do a 4-pack of standard size refills for $290, which is probably the best deal unless you print stupid amounts, in which case you absolutely want the extra large or the high yield. I don't know why they just don't call them XL like they do with the black toner cartridges, but the high yield color refills.
So much yield.
Yeah, it was funny because I was looking at the price. Tariffs have not particularly impacted the price on these or ink. I think in the case of inkjet ink, because there's so much margin in there, some places are charging maybe $10 more since April. I got my camel on, was looking for price increases, but for the most part, they've held pretty steady at that. What's crazy is how expensive that looks compared to the bulk ink we were using for the inkjet, which was like $20 for, 6,000 black and white pages. But if I'm spending 25 minutes clearing the print head every time I try to do that, pounding my skull against the wall.
Right. Yeah. Time is money.
Yeah. Time is money, and brain cells just don't like being hammered against the wall.
So you've been living with this printer. It sounds like it works out really well for your household for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Have there been any disappointments, or is it all just good to go?
It prints perfect first time every time. There are no head cleaning issues. There are no other issues. Like I said, it prints like 4 times as fast. The closest thing I've had to an issue with it was like Windows 11 did something weird in an update, and I had to reinstall the drivers. I'm going to blame that on Microsoft, not on Brother. The really bad thing, outside of the fact that our ink costs have gone up by comparison, is laser printers, at least at this price point, still really suck at printing photos.
That was going to be my next question, because that's why I always went with an inkjet in the past, and I wasn't printing that many photos, but I would use nice glossy photo paper, which it accepted and had pretty nice results. So this is not what you want to do with photos.
No, I actually, because I was thinking about that a few weeks ago, and I was like, gosh, I haven't printed any photos in this because, I print a lot of things that are like big, colorful, large type. And I printed out a photo, and I was like, ugh. It was recognizable for what it was supposed to be.
Just
but
artifacty kind of?
It's just a hot mess by comparison to the photo quality, the high-end photo quality I'm used to from even my 10-year-old inkjet printer. And it's crazy, right? Because I'm like, okay, maybe, I'll get a dedicated photo printer. But, when you look at the really serious, like hobbyist photo printers, like the 7-color photo printers, they're like in the $800 neighborhood now. And the inks are not cheap for those. Now, you will get absolutely magnificent prints out of them, but I was kind of fascinated that Wirecutter had basically, they're like, hey, if you're not a hobbyist, if you're not deeply invested in the process and the creative experience of crafting your photos, go to Nation's Photo Lab. And a matter of fact, like PC Mag and Wired have also picked them. The pricing varies by size and the paper type, but like you get like 49 cents for a 4x6 photo, or roughly 1,400 photos for the cost of a high-end photo printer. And then they have all these crazy output options, you know what I mean? Where you have paper choices and textures and sizes and the kind of stuff that would cost like a $10,000 printer if you wanted to do it at home.
Right. Yeah. It's like you kind of have to have that conversation with yourself. It's like, am I going to run a photography lab in my house? And if I am, great. But if not, if this is a once in a while type thing, maybe that third party is the way to go.
Yeah, that's definitely, because I was actually kind of shocked at like some of the options that you had with the processing that they do, that they can automatically clean things up, or that I could do something that really looked fantastic. You know what I mean? Like we've done photo books on and off for years for some of our relatives, but if I wanted a half dozen really nice shots to give to friends after a vacation or something, that would be a lot simpler. And a lot less expensive.
Right. Okay, so what about the folks who say, all right, well, laser printer sounds good, but, I also want to have a scanner or even a fax machine, as part of this. How complicated do these guys get?
They get as complicated as you want. When you look at, it all depends on how much money you're willing to pay, right? The one we bought is a printer, not an all-in-one. The all-in-one kind of equivalent to the printer we bought, like kind of like the same print engine, but with a scanner and some fax capabilities put into it, was like 25 or 30% more. So I want to say $500 to $600, depending on where you were shopping. If we scanned more, if we faxed at all, we could justify it, but we just don't scan that much. So we still have our older all-in-one printer we use for scanning, and maybe we'll find a flatbed scanner we like. When you're talking about functionality, a lot of it's basically, like this is the print technology that drives every, Volkswagen-sized printer you still find in offices. And, the only thing it's limiting you is how much money you're willing to spend.
Right.
And if you can get it through the front door.
Well, Patrick, as we wrap up this episode, remind everybody once again the model number of this Brother printer that you seem to be liking very much, and just give us just an overall. Would you buy it again?
Okay, so the Brother HL-L3295CDW sells for.
Don't you love printer naming conventions? Boy, they roll off the tongue.
I've hated them for 30 years. They never get any easier. They never get any more functional. But yeah, I absolutely would buy it again. It has done everything we wanted it to do. I'm sure I will be a little, cranky when I go to replace the toner, and I'm like, wow, this is much more expensive than the ink. And then I'll remember having to do all the stuff I had to do to get my old printer to start running again. There are also off-brand toners, which I have not experimented with, but man, there are a staggering number of toner providers that claim that they are totally compatible, with this Brother printer and cost significantly less on Amazon. And I also want to say, like, case in point, Sarah, you want an inexpensive printer because you need to dash something off. You don't want to spend a fortune. Like the HL, speaking of names that just roll off the tongue like poetry, the Brother HL-L2405W is a black and white laser printer that sells for like $100 or $120, depending on when you're buying it.
Yeah, just for the simple stuff.
And it will probably last you the rest of your life.
Now that's a tall order, because I'm going to live a long time.
Are you printing a lot though? If you print 3 or 4 times a year.
No, I print maybe a couple of times a year, maybe. But also things change, right?
Yeah,
you get a new job, all of a sudden you got to print a lot of stuff. Patrick Norton, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Live With It. Let folks know where they can keep up with what you're up to these days.
Oh, my goodness. Well, take a look at Patrick Norton on Blue Sky, or I'm still on the X at Patrick Norton.
Well, we're happy to have you. Live with something else and come back soon. Will you?
I would be honored. Thank you so much.
Well, that is it for this episode of Live With It. Remember, we can only do shows like this with your continued support. Become a patron rather, if you're not already, at patreon.com/DTNS. You can learn more there. I am Sarah Lane. You've been living with it, and we'll talk to you next time.